Welcome to the Agents of the Unexplained podcast. From a haunted abandoned asylum to Sasquatch lurking in the dark woods and watching you, and all things unexplained, here are the stories from outside our realm. With your host, Bill Rigby.
Well, hello, everyone. Tonight, we got Chris Parsons and Linda Sigman. She is an excellent person that saw the Mothman. This is great. Some of you probably already know her from being on Les O'Dell's or from her Facebook page, her book, the whole 9 yards. Great lady. And I'm so happy to have her on. But I need to make couple quick announcements right now. And this one is with a very heavy heart. John and Beth Ann Turley from Crowtown Squatchers. John's mom passed away this afternoon from cancer. 3 weeks ago, they found out she had it. Not even 3 weeks ago. And she passed away today. She went quick. In a way, that's a blessing, but it really bothers me. Mom was a great lady, always happy to be out with John and Beth Ann at the events. She enjoyed it. She always had a smile for people. It's a shame. Yeah, so please keep them in your prayers. The other thing is the Penn, Ohio Paranormal Conference 3 is still on schedule. For March 29th, 2025. The speakers are lined up. We got vendors signing up already. We got a couple sponsors already. It's all coming together. So, with that all being said, let me go ahead and bring Linda and Chris in. There they are. I'm looking forward to this since we talked the other night. I'm telling you, I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I got a lot of respect for you. I really do. Chris, I just got getting to know you, but Linda, I've been following you, and you're an impressive lady. You really are. You're always out there. You're always researching. So, before we go any further with all my accolades towards you, tell everyone about, keep it coming. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then Chris, you can tell a little about yourself.
Oh, I'm just a country girl. I was born.
Woo-hoo!
Okay. I was born in Pomeroy, Ohio, and I was born in Mason, West Virginia, which is across the river from Pomeroy, Ohio, which is just a little river town in southeastern Ohio. And I grew up, our house was right on the river. And so I always liked to fish and boat and climb the hills. And I have to say that all the time that I ran in those hills, I never saw a Bigfoot, but then it wasn't until after I saw Mothman that I heard of Patty, the Patterson-Gimlin film. And from there, after I had my Mothman experience at age 16, it sort of sparked something inside of me of wanting to learn more about the unknown, the paranormal, and the supernatural. So back then we didn't have internet, so I was at the library trying to find everything I could, or at the magazine stands looking for Fate magazine. Do you remember Fate magazine?
Oh my God, yes.
I still have one of those. And so that kind of sparked my interest, and from there it just took off. And but I have always been a different person. When I was 3 years old.
Just throw it. It's
hang on just a second.
It's right there.
I don't. Okay. When I was 3 years old, I saw my guardian angel, And when I was 5 years old, I saw a gray alien. And at the time, I didn't know that that's what it was. I thought it was a robot. So all my years growing up, I was afraid of robots. So,
Danger, Will Robbins.
oh no!
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Linda.
yeah,
That popped into my head right there. I had to do it.
That's okay. I used to watch that all the time. Oh, I'd go to the movies with my sister, and of course, back then it only cost a dime to get in, and we'd watch all the scary stuff, and I'd usually end up outside with a stomach ache, and my sister was really mad at me, but it was because I had all these different abilities and emotions that I didn't understand.
Right.
And then going through school, it was hard for me because I'm an empath, and I can hear and feel different things coming from other people. But I'm rambling on, so I'll let Chris introduce himself.
From the earliest time I can remember, Bill, I was into science fiction and fantasy. As a matter of fact, that's how I learned how to read, was Marvel comic books. I'll never forget the story. I don't even know if I've told Mom this, but I remember being 5 or 6 years old. I'm from Ironton, Ohio, and I had broken my left leg by running around in the front yard, and I got my foot stuck in a little hole. A little dog was chasing me around, and my left foot got planted, and I continued to rotate, and I had a spiral break straight up my leg. And so for a few months in the summer of the early 70s, when I was 6, I've got this long cast, and I'll never forget in Ironton having my family go into the store in downtown Ironton, and I got tired of waiting for them, and I eventually literally got out of the car and walked into the store like a crab all the way back to the comics, and they found me back there reading comic books. And so fantasy and science fiction, that whole genre of aliens and ghosts and you name it, is as natural to me as breathing.
Right.
And when I was about 10 years old in Ironton, I was riding my bike up and down the alley in Ironton, and I had this overwhelming urge to look up in the sky, and I was like, what? And there it was in the sky. It was an overcast day. I'll never forget it, Bill. I look up and I see a UFO. I mean, that's what it was. It was flat on bottom, domed on top. It was that dirty sterling silver color. You know, it wasn't metallic. It was very, very gray. And I remember looking up at it, and I had this thought go through my mind. It's not a bird, not a plane, not a balloon, not, there's no drones back in 1975. What in the world was it? And there were clouds. As the clouds would pass by, in between myself, my vision, and it would still be there. And I can't tell you.
Now, what shape was it again?
Flat on bottom, domed on top.
That's
and
one of the
most.
There's a reason behind. I'll let you finish your story there. Now I'll tell you the reason behind that.
Yeah, I just when you look up that shape, it's one of the most common UFO shapes that anybody and everybody has ever seen. And I can honestly say I can't tell you how long I remember looking up at it, but eventually a cloud mass came by, and when it went by, it was gone. And from that moment on, I spent hundreds, probably thousands of hours reading every book I could read, talking to every person I could talk to, watching every documentary, giving UFO presentations at libraries, any club that would take me, anybody that would sit in front of me and say, hey, tell me about UFOs. And we met about 10 years ago at the Roundtown UFO Society in Circleville, and we immediately hit it off as just tremendous friends. She's so loving, and we have continued our friendship and our love, and I consider her to be my default mother now. And so one of the things that we do, Bill, is every single night we watch a Bigfoot documentary on TV or a podcast, and we just endlessly are interested in the subject matter. And I remember there was a time not all that long ago where I tried to compartmentalize, everything that's out there. And one of the things I was hoping we could talk about tonight is how there are ufologists who just are interested in UFO and nothing else. There are people that are interested in Bigfoot and nothing else. And then you have your ghosts, your dog people. But I think one of the things that we've done very organically is see how perhaps, and I wanted to get your input in it, how it could all very well be connected. How it's all part of a greater vision of what goes bump in the night.
All right, now you're getting into part of my realm. Okay. That's the reason I formed my group, the Agents of the Unexplained, because with Bigfoot, Mothman, the paranormal, everything paranormal, UFOs. I'm doing a camp out in July. Me and Gwen Purcell from God Knockers is putting it on up in the Alleghenies, where there's paranormal, Bigfoot, Dogman, Rake, UFOs, all up in that area, constantly being seen. Are they interconnected? I don't know. We're trying to find out. Now, some of my diehard just Bigfoot flesh and blood friends are probably going to disown me now for saying that. But are they, I would say there's a woo side to them? I don't know. From the one I saw at 15 feet away from me, I presume was flesh and blood. It looked flesh and blood. Was it flesh and blood? I don't know. I didn't tackle it and try to. No. But, now getting back to the UFO part, I was 14 years old. So that was spring of 73. I saw the same shaped one you did. But I was living down on the other side of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. We actually right half mile outside the city limits. It was an early spring morning, beautiful sunny day out. Not a cloud in the sky. We're out at the bus stop getting ready to go to school, and I look up over Quad's house, which is about a half mile to 3/4 mile away. Up in the sky was a UFO. And I'm looking. I tell everyone else to look up. They're all looking. I run back into my house. My mom's in the kitchen at the kitchen window doing dishes. And, of course, it's facing that way. I said, look up over Quats, man. There's a UFO. Mom looks up, and she's staring, turned around and looked at me dead in the face very seriously, said, you don't tell nobody this. Not a single soul. And I mean,
sounds familiar, yeah.
Well, a guy that lived on up the hill, almost across the street from the Quats, which, the houses were sparse there. We lived in we called it Willow Grove. There was only maybe a dozen homes down there. Then you had a couple houses up on the hill and another one at the very top of the hill, and then Harry Warner's farm a mile up the road. And the guy across the road took a picture. He sent it into the local news station and the local newspapers. Within 3 days, he was a nutcase. Everyone was saying. He threw a metal trash can lid in the air and took a picture of it. I'm a half mile to 3/4 mile away. How in the hell am I going to see that trash can lid? I said, Mom's right. You don't say nothing or you're belittled.
I know.
Yeah, so that's why I said, what was the shape again? Because that's almost identical to the one I saw. And it was pretty good size. For me to be able to see it that far away and be able to make out the shape. I didn't notice no lights. I didn't really notice any windows.
Mhm.
Do you still have access to that picture, Bill?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't. I don't. I don't know if it's archived in the Newcastle News, the newspaper down there, or not. Uh, that's something I'm going to have to check. So I will, if they do, I'll get a copy of it and send
That
it
would
to
be
you.
neat to find that picture after all these years, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And I talked to that gentleman about a month after everyone ridiculed him, and he says, "I'll never share another thing with them. I'm the nutcase, but I know what I saw and what a picture I took." I said, "I know what you saw too, because I saw it."
Mhm.
And he just looked at me and went, "Really?" I went, "Yeah, I did." And I described it to him. He says, "You did see it."
Mhm.
I ain't lying. But it's very interesting, Chris, when it comes to the phenomenon of the UFOs, the cryptids and the paranormal.
It's so easy to want to keep them separated. I remember, like it was yesterday, the very first, and I wish I could tell you what the magazine was, but it was back in I want to say maybe it was 74, 75. And maybe if I went out on the internet and started looking up articles, but there was an article that definitively, yeah, I shouldn't say that word, that linked Bigfoot and UFOs. And there are tons of witnesses that say they have actually seen Bigfoot beam down below the UFO and walk away, or just the opposite,
But
walk up to
that's
the
the thing.
UFO and be beamed
All
up.
right, I'm going to play the devil advocate. How about do a polygraph for that?
Okay.
And that's how these people think. Well, do a polygraph, or did you get a picture? I'm not discounting that. How can I discount that could happen?
Right.
I can't.
One of my
How can
favorite
I
things.
discount what Linda saw when she saw Mothman? How can
Right.
I discount that? I was not there.
One of my favorite things, Bill, that I've said over the years in the lectures I give, and I'm going to be in Jackson County, Ohio, on at the library on May 18th, giving a UFO talk called "UFOs: The Truth Is Out There." Obviously, a little harkening back to one of my favorite science fiction series of the '90s, early 2000s, The X-Files.
Yes.
But it's like I say when I'm either talking or I'm up there doing presentations, because, as you well know, I think one of the things that we always have to be, if we want to have, number one, any credibility at all, but if we're actually searching for the truth, we should always start out very skeptical. In other words, how could we potentially explain any given sighting of any phenomenon with natural phenomena?
Right.
Go through your checklist of everything. And after if possible, if you've done your checklist of all the things you could possibly check off, and they're not any of those, of course, it doesn't mean the phenomena is real, but it's a very solid case if you can literally go from not a weather phenomenon, not a light source, not swamp gas, not this, not that. Then you can, and of course, I'm sure you can do it. I can do it. I know Mom can do it. There are so many famous cases out there that have been thoroughly vetted, that it appears that whatever they're looking at, whether it's a Bigfoot, a UFO, a ghost, that it meets all that criteria for a good case. But it's like the point I was trying to make, to draw to, all it ever takes for any of this phenomena to be real is one sighting of a Bigfoot that's real, one sighting of a ghost, one sighting of a UFO. And when you think about all the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of the sightings and the experiences that people have, I want to say the law of large numbers says there's probably a very good chance that there's not just one, that there are maybe hundreds or thousands of cases that are true, and that the phenomena is real. Now, of course, what it doesn't do, Bill, it doesn't tell us who they are, where they're from, why they're here,
Exactly.
what if any, what their intentions may be. But it's fascinating to obviously to explore all this. And one of the things I think that Mom and I talk about a lot now, you mentioned just a while ago the woo factor with Bigfoot, the mind speak, the spiritual aspects, the abilities they have that transcend just flesh and blood, the ability to maybe teleport, the ability to go invisible, in all the various mechanisms, a way that you could do it either naturally with technology or some type of supernatural phenomena. I mean, these
all right,
things
wait
that
a minute.
we're studying.
Here's another perspective. Elephants, lions, and tigers, they all can do infrasound. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, I know for a fact I got hit with infrasound 2 different times. And I know that for a fact from what happened to me. Was it a Bigfoot? It sure in hell was no tiger or lions or an elephant because I wasn't in Africa.
Yep.
Can bears do it? I don't know.
Hmm.
Okay, let's be real. We don't know. And that's the thing. I don't care if it's Bigfoot, Mothman, Dogman, Ghost UFOs. Do everything you can to debunk it first.
Absolutely.
You know,
You have to go out and search and go out and do your own thing. Keep your eyes and your ears and your mind open.
yes.
And get Bigfoot off the brain. That's what I said the other day.
Yes.
You got to get Bigfoot off the brain. Just go out and do your thing. And
Everything is not
don't-
Bigfoot when you're in the woods.
Mhm.
Oh, there's nothing more irritating, Bill, than to have people sit back and, for lack of a better word, just piss on everybody who is interested in this and make all these pronouncements with doing zero investigation. There are some famous physicists that I don't need to name, and there are others that I think are more friendly, but it's like, if I want to crap on someone's...
I got a story.
Oh, I'm sure you do. But I mean, the thing that kills me about science is, science is slowly coming around. And one of my favorites, of course, is Michio Kaku, who talks about there is enough information out there now on sightings, Oumuamua, and so many other things,
Right.
where they now say the burden is on science to step forward and talk about what this phenomena in the sky is. The 2017 famous article, I think, in the New York Times with Leslie Kane, that opened up this whole normalizing UFOs and the military's friendliness of talking about it. It's amazing to see what we might literally be on the threshold of UFO disclosure in the next couple of years, and try and figure out.
They don't even go there, Chris, because I am so pissed off at the government for the bullshit they released.
Well, the good news is, Bill, it might not be up to the government to keep it a secret anymore, and that's one of the things that I think is important.
Right.
Is that there are people there. I remember one of my talking to a gentleman dozens of years ago, and he basically said, we've entered treaties with them, maybe back in '54, out in California, to the base, and I think he more or less said that we got some of their technology. They got some people the ability to do alien abductions and do what they needed to do. But there would be a point in time in the future where the truth would come out, so to speak. And people have speculated that maybe certain years have been met, and we keep going back to them saying, well, we're just not ready. We're just not ready. And I think
Who says we're not?
Right. They have said, well, you've got X amount of time, and then we're going to disclose the truth, because if there's that, let me see if I get the camera. If there's that many people that are holding the truth, And there's billions of other people who I believe deserve to know the truth, that at some point they're going to get tired of the government's intransigence on this subject matter and have a very peaceful version of Independence Day where they land on a lawn and say, we're here, we've been here for a long time, we've wanted to meet you, but the treaty, there's certain things that had to happen in the treaty. We finally met the bottom line, and we're letting you know we're here, and it's time for you all, maybe to become part of the Galactic Federation and move on, because ultimately what we need, if you look at the Earth, even without the aliens, we've got millions, maybe billions of years without a comet hitting us. Eventually the sun's going to go supernova and we're gone. Right. So for humanity to survive, we have to be able to leave the Earth and go elsewhere, because we are doomed if we stay here. And I think that's one of the things that the world deserves to know. If I'm lucky, I've got maybe another 15 or 20 years before I die. I would love to know that humanity is secure in its future, in our ability to leave this solar system, hopefully be a part of a galactic federation to explore the galaxy, just like Star Trek, and meet other races and find out exactly, that would be the overarching idea I have.
Right.
But one of the things, like you say, is it would be very, very hard to trust the government with all the lies and manipulation we've seen since Roswell.
Yes, 110%.
Yeah,
All right, we're going to digress a little bit. I'm going back to my story where you said how these people don't get out and research. They got to say how this is. Yes. This is how it is, no matter what. Well, I was at about an hour east of me at a research area I'm doing. The guy has 200-acre hunting camp. Well, I was going to be there, so he decided he's going to have a big cookout and have all these people to meet me. Why? So I can't do my research, number one. But this guy came with his daughter and her boyfriend, or son and his girlfriend, something like that. And he's going around and very forcefully saying, Bigfoot jumps through portals. That's how he gets from one place to the other. And I'm telling you, that's how he does it. And different ones go to me, you hear what he's saying? I said, I hear him. Let him believe what he wants to believe. But you see how he's saying, yeah. And I'm trying to ignore him. It went on for maybe 20 minutes, half hour. Finally, now I'm mad because he's just telling everyone this is how it is. And I stood up. I went, excuse me. They jump through portals? He goes, yeah, they do. Have you seen them do that? No. All right, wait a minute. Have you seen a portal? No. But that's how they do it. Yeah, that's how they do it. I'm like, have you seen a Bigfoot? He went, no. I said, now how in the hell do you know? Just sit your ass down and shut up. You don't know nothing. If you can go ahead and tell people this is what you believe, then you can keep on talking. Other than that, shut the hell up.
Good.
And I went back over to the other group of people, and the one guy goes, you know who that is? I said, I don't give a shit. He says, he's the county commissioner for here.
Did you ever get an answer, Bill, on how he felt so definitive about the things? I mean,
no,
I don't have a problem with people speculating. I love to
you can speculate, but don't tell me that's exactly how they're doing.
Exactly.
When you don't know. None of us know.
There's a difference from saying that based upon all the anecdotal evidence, so to speak, that there may be a proclivity or ability that whatever the phenomena does this, but to be able to speak definitively about it, and that's just, again, I agree with you. It's like, buddy, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, that's a really good theory, and there are people who have seen it, but, you know, to speak with authority like that's the way it is makes no sense.
Right. He had me fired up so big, I almost told him, quit talking out his ass.
Oh, for sure.
But I didn't. I almost did because
Sure.
no. And Griff says current events are making extraterrestrials rethink contacting us.
They think we're all nuts. They're probably right.
Well,
I am.
I could say this to Griff that I can't disagree with that, but let me say this. Let me ask you this question, Bill. You know, one of the things I've always said at my presentations, and I think about it all the time, is imagine a race of beings that could be thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years ahead of us technologically, and looking down at us, probably like children. You know, the kids are out playing with the dynamite, all the weapons of war we have. We've had the capability to destroy ourselves for decades now, at least a human lifetime. I wonder, you know, and again, so much of my life and thought is brought about by some of the best science fiction in the world, like, and I'll say Star Trek is one of them. You know, if you know anything about Star Trek, you know about the Prime Directive, how they're not allowed to interfere in the development of others, and that would be a moral value decision that we have made potentially. That doesn't mean that other civilizations that are out there have that mandate or that belief. I know in my heart, I would, if I had the ability to be out in the universe and I could come upon a race of beings that had the potential like we have and not want to offer them some quote help. And I'm like, the fact that they may be tainted by knowing that we exist, I couldn't give a damn about that. But to say, here's a life form with intelligence, and if there's something you could potentially learn from us that would benefit you, I would like you to have this knowledge. Don't want to force it down your throat, but here's a path that you're on that's going to lead to destruction. Obviously, you all have the ability to do that. However, we would like to encourage you to go a different way. And one of my favorite new series now, and I don't know if you've had a chance, if you're even a fan of it, Bill, but Mom and I love Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
I haven't
and
seen
the
it
very
yet.
first episode of the very first season, 2 years ago, that's, without spoiling it, I guess I'm going to spoil it. That's exactly what happens at the end of the episode. They had gone down to the planet to search it, to scout. And I think, if I remember correctly, they are discovered. They're brought before the powers that be, and there's two big factions that are fighting each other. And essentially, you have the world on the brink of destruction, and then the captain of the Enterprise basically beams down in his image and says, "You have a choice: destruction, like my planet went through in its world wars, or you could join the Federation and become a part of a greater good of the galaxy." And not that Griff is wrong, but, you know, I think I can't help it. I'm an eternal optimist, Bill, and I want to think that perhaps before something like that occurs, and I don't want to rely on it, but I can't discount that it might happen, that they may actually save us from ourselves. And maybe there are people that speculated that they've already done it at least a few times already. But it's something that I think about all the time, and I have to say to myself, if you come across the kids playing with fire, you might want to take the fire away from them and say, think about it before you go on.
Yes.
It's a thought.
And that's a good possibility, being an optimist. Or it could be like Independence Day. You know,
you're a danger to your warlock ways are a danger to the galaxy. We're going to end you before you can go out and conquer and infect the galaxy.
Right. So, you know, that's stuff we don't know. You know, that's the thing with that. We just don't know. But anyhow, I want to get to Linda's Mothman.
Second.
Oh, so she gets up and leaves us.
Our our mountain feist is hungry for mommy's attention.
She
Oh,
won't
yes.
leave me alone. She won't leave me alone. So
Well,
Look at that baby.
okay.
yeah. My baby's behind me laying on the bed. His
That's
bed.
what this one needs to do.
Mm.
Does anybody have any questions for me before I start?
Where did you see it at? That's what I want to know.
Okay. There's a little town where I was born across from Pomeroy, Ohio, called Mason City, West Virginia. And it's about 25 miles north of Point Pleasant. And it borders the Ohio River on the West Virginia side. And when I was 16 years old, I had a boyfriend that I hadn't been dating very long, but it was during the Mothman, what do you call that? The Mothman flap.
Yeah.
And everybody called it the bird. And so we decided one evening, he came over and he said, let's go look for the bird. So my house was right about 50 feet or 50 yards from the Pomeroy Mason Bridge in Pomeroy. And then you go across the bridge and you're in Mason. So he picked me up about 7 o'clock one night and we decided we'd just go look for the bird. So he had a 56 Chevy and we get in that and we go across the river to Mason and we get the end of the bridge and we turn left and we head up towards the town of Mason and we go about quarter mile, I suppose, and we turn right and go back through a country road. Now, I was familiar with that road. He lived over there and he had a horse and we had ridden that horse, bareback together a couple times back through the woods and back through that road. So he said, let's go out that way in the car and go to the top of the hill. And it wasn't quite dark yet. And it was April the 18th. So this kind of weather like this. And in fact, it was a bit warmer because I can remember that we were wearing shorts and it was a nice evening. And he said, there's a field up here where I cut hay last year for a guy. Let's go up there and pull in off of the country road, turn around and head out and get out and sit on the car hood and look at the stars and see what we can see. It hadn't been too long before that. This was 1967. So there was a girl that had seen the Mothman in Mason, up around Mason, by the golf course, which as the crow flies from where we were, probably was only about a mile and a half at the most. So we get a blanket and we sit on the hood of the car and we're sitting there and there's not many leaves on the trees yet. And we can look over to our right and there are trees in the perimeter. I suppose maybe 30 yards from us. And to our left is where we came in on the country road. And the country road kept on going down around. So we're sitting there on the hood of the car. He got a quilt out and we're sitting there talking. And we weren't there very long. And I relive this every time I tell it. And I can see it. I can see the trees. I can see the field. I can feel the night air. It was a beautiful night. And it was starting to get dark. And the stars were coming out. And I noticed he was sitting on the passenger side. And I was sitting on the driver's side. And I noticed that he kept looking back over his shoulder like this. And I said, what you looking at? He said, you see that big star over there? I said, oh, man, that's big. And by that time, it was getting dark. And he said, I've been watching it for about 10 minutes. And he said, it looks odd. It just keeps getting smaller and then larger and smaller and larger. And it was sort of I said, maybe it's a planet because it started to turn kind of red. And all of a sudden, the sky started to roll and the clouds started to part and it just opened up. And you talk about portal. That's what I think this must have been. This object burst out of the clouds, and I can still see the clouds. They were red and pink and blue, and we were just sitting there flabbergasted. We're like, oh my God, what is that? Is that bird thing? What is that? Is that one of those UFOs that everybody's been seeing? So it started getting bigger. And if you put your hand out like this and open it up, it appeared to be about like this.
Okay.
And it was closer to us than what I thought. At first, I thought it was farther away, but it was really only on the other side of the trees. And it started coming closer, and it wasn't blinking. It was probably treetop almost high. And it was bright orange, orangish red, just glowing. And it made no sound. But it moved probably about 2 miles an hour, like someone would walk, right as we were looking to our right at the trees. We could see it through the trees coming to the road that we came in. Now, the road that we came in on, I'm sorry?
I said, right.
The road that we came in on kept on going up and over the hill and down. Well, this thing came through the trees. It stopped at the end of the tree line at the road. And we're sitting there, like their mouth open. You just couldn't believe what you're seeing. When you're sitting and you're out there, it's dark. There's no other houses. There's just trees. You're up on top of the hill. It's nighttime. And there's this UFO. It's just like a movie. Well, it stopped when it got to the road. And it went a little faster at an angle right to our car. So the next thing I remember, I'm still on the car, and I'm kind of in almost a fetal position, and like this, thinking, and the thing is right above the car, about treetop high. You can look up. I can remember looking up, and it was just like at a tall ceiling, I couldn't see the sky. The thing was that big. I couldn't see anything but the bottom of that UFO. It only sound it made was a slight sucking sound, like I said, it reminded me of a vacuum cleaner, suck us up. There were lights on the bottom of it. There were three white ones and 3 red ones. I couldn't see anything else. And there was a glow around it at the same time, sort of a golden. It made the whole area turn into like a golden red glow. I didn't feel any heat. I didn't smell anything. And just that sucking noise. The next thing I can remember, now I was regressed and I found out a lot more of what happened to me by a licensed hypnotherapist. But the next thing I remembered, I was in the car. I was in the passenger seat. The window was down, and I looked, and my boyfriend was behind the wheel. The thing was still over us, and the light was in the car. And I don't think we said a word to each other. And he tried to start the car, of course. Classic, it didn't start. Just, finally it got it started. And I'm like looking around, and what are we going to do? And as we started to move, the UFO slowly raised up a little bit. It started to move, and there was a creature standing under this UFO to the left, right off of the bumper of the car, and it jumped up and over the hood of the car, and we're going forward. The UFO's going. This creature flew to my right. It flew to where across the road up into a bunch of trees. At this time, I'm hanging out of the passenger side of the car going, look at that thing.
Why did you get a picture? No.
Yeah, get your cell phone out. Take a picture. Oh,
Sorry, I had to go there.
if only, you know. Anyway, I'm like, look at that creature. He's like, I can't look at anything when I'm trying to get us out of here. And he got out, bumpity, 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 bump, to the end of the road.
Yeah, he was flying too, wasn't he?
Flying. And we were probably 30 yards from the road. And you know how hayfields are. They're not real. They're kind of like boom, boom, boom. And back then, you never wore a seatbelt. We got to the end of the road. We turned left. This UFO, I'm hanging out the door, hanging out the window. I'm up to my waist hanging out. The UFO goes over the hill. The creature goes up in the trees, and the thing turns around. Boom. And I said, did you see that creature? And he's like, no. And he's like, we're fishtailing, and we almost wrecked. We almost went over the hill. So we fly down that gravel road, gravel going everywhere. I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell happened? What was that? you know?
Yeah, your mind's probably going every which way.
I'm like, let's go back. I want to see it. I want you got to see that. And he's like, we're not going anywhere. And he's all shook up. And of course I am too. But we get down at about half a mile from where we were parked. You just go straight down over the hill. Over on our left was an old abandoned strip mine. And it had a few little dilapidated building-like things. And it was kind of like a lover's lane. So we pulled in there. There was nobody else.
At your age? Lover's lane?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, I have my driver's license. We pull in there, and he said, I'm not going to face out. I'm just going to pull in so I can face the road that we came in on. So we pull in and kind of turn halfway, and you can see the road that we came in on.
right.
And it's dark, and it's pretty light out, kind of moonlight. But I didn't see a moon, but it was light. And all of a sudden, we're sitting there about 10 minutes talking about, I'm arguing with him. I want to go back. I want to see that thing, and I want him to see it. I saw it. I wanted him to see it. He didn't want to. He said, let me sit here. Let me sit here a minute.
I bet he wasn't a boyfriend long after that.
Yeah. Anyway, we saw a light coming down the road, and I'm like, there comes a car. Let's go. We don't want to get stopped by the police or something. And I said, or is that the moon? Is the moon supposed to be out? And this light from the direction we came from the hill down the road over this rise comes this light. And it was about the size of a Volkswagen, a small car, completely round, bluish white. And it's traveling real slow, like it's looking for us.
Uh-oh.
And it's about 3 feet above the road. And I'm hoping at that time that some cars will come. Nothing comes except this second object which is much smaller. And it's about 3 feet above the road. And the road is like a little snake, and it was just following the road. And we're sitting there looking to our left at it. And it gets about parallel with us, and it stops. And we're like, oh, here we go again.
Uh-oh.
I said, can that be the Mothman creature? Of course, we called it the bird. Can that be the bird? He's like, I don't know what that is, Linda. And he's trying to start the car. It won't start. It's like, oh. It spots us because it stopped. Can you make her quit?
You just got to throw it, honey. I'm sorry.
I don't.
Or give it to me.
Yeah. Anyway, she gets all worked up when I do because she's a service dog.
Yeah.
She knows my heart's beating. Here it comes towards us. And it just makes a beeline straight to the car. But it's going real slow, just like this. Going real slow. It stops at the driver's side where my boyfriend is sitting. And I'm looking at it. And he's kind of side-eyeing it. And it goes around to the front of the car. Isn't this wild? It goes around to the front of the car. And it stops right in front of the bumper. Just sits there. And I'm like, what is that thing? He's like, I don't know. I said, do you see anything? Do you see any lights? He goes, no. Do you see anything in it? You hear anything? I was like, no. We had the windows down. And we both kind of looked at the object. It sat there for, at least 5 minutes. And we both started.
How big was it, would you say?
About the size of a Volkswagen, a small car.
It's still about the size. It didn't get any bigger. Okay.
Yeah. I said, you suppose that thing came out of that bigger craft? And do you think they're looking for us? I said, they have to be. He sent out a scout. They're coming after us. Of course, we're sitting there like, oh, my short life is flashing in front of my face, and I'm thinking they're going to get us. And that was back before I even knew a whole lot about UFOs, or the only thing I knew was what I had been reading from Where the Mothman and John Keel and all them, Mary Hyre, had been seeing UFOs down at the TNT area. It sat there. And it was like if you look at a fluorescent light, bluish white, and then all of a sudden it just rose up, and I'm like, I'm dead. And it went right over the car. And when it went right over the car, it filled the car with light, bluish white light. And I'm like, it's still there, it's still alive,
And you didn't mention that back in those days that happened, or you've been known as the crazy lady.
My dad told me to keep my mouth shut.
Yep.
Yep. So anyway, but he believed me because as we were going home across the bridge, I said, I feel funny. And my boyfriend said, I do too. I said, I'm not sick. I'm not tired. I'm not scared. I'm not hot. I'm not cold. I feel like when you wake up in the morning and you've slept real well, you feel refreshed. And I said, and it was before computers. So I said, I feel like my mind's been picked, like something is put in my mind where I would say now something's been uploaded.
Yeah.
I said, it feels like they went in there and they took a broom and took the cobwebs out. I like that. I'm not done now. So we go up to Pomeroy and we park on the parking lot and we're looking at the river and we're watching to see if we see anything. We don't. So he said, I'm going to take you home. I said, yeah, I think so. I said, my God, it's 8:30, almost a quarter till 9. We left my house at 7. It took us 5 minutes to get to where we were parked, where we saw the first UFO. We were there no more than 15.
And you still lost all that time.
I lost 35 to 45 minutes. So we go home, we pull in the driveway, it's dark, and we had a big house that set right on the river, right below the Pomeroy Mason Bridge, and we had a big porch on the front. Directly across from my house was a high school where the kids went. It was called Wahama High School. It's still there. My dad comes running out to the car. I'm like, how does he know where we've been?
Yeah.
I'm in trouble. What'd I do? I said, just don't say anything. So before we can even get out of the car, he's got his head in the car saying, hurry, get out of the car. I want to tell you something. And I'm like, okay. He said, you're not going to believe what your mother and I just saw. I said, did you see a UFO? He said, how'd you know? I said, well, we just saw 2. He said, well, the one I saw and your mother saw as we were sitting on the porch came directly over Wahama High School, went left, went just barely made it across the Pomeroy Mason Bridge and went towards Pomeroy just a few minutes ago. That was the one we saw, because where we were parked that second time, that was just as the crow flies, right, down over the hill there, and the phone was ringing. We had landlines at that time. And it was, my mom got up and she went in. We were sitting on the porch and she said, that was Mom, your grandma. She said, hurry up and run out. There's at least 1, possibly 2 UFOs coming your way from upriver. Now, she lived at the upper end of Pomeroy. So she said, they're coming down your way. She saw one, the neighbors saw one, and the one the neighbors saw, when she talked to her, said they had been seeing it every morning at 3 o'clock around in that area. She'd wake up and go out and take a dog out, or she couldn't sleep, and they saw it. Grandma lived up on the top of the hill that overlooked the river.
That's just nuts that everyone got to see it.
Everyone got to see it. That was very strange. So as summer comes and goes, we continue to go to the TNT area to look for the bird, for Mothman. We only tell a few friends because they're all telling us how nuts we are, and you're smoking this or you're doing that. No.
Oh, this is the 60s. We didn't smoke nothing.
I know. So anyway, do you want me to continue?
Yes.
Okay. So Dad's like, everything's been on the radio. There's, he called them G-men. There's these G-men down there at Point Pleasant in black suits, and they're all wandering around. You stay away from that TNT area, and don't you go down to Point Pleasant no matter what. I'm like, okay.
Guess where you went?
Guess we went every weekend, carloads of us. And that was fun. We'd all get down there. We'd rarely see anything. Sometimes we'd see lights. And sometimes there was a man that had an airplane, and he'd drive around and try to scare the kids. Well, we knew who he was. But summer came and went, kind of uneventful. And then it became November. It had been a year since Mothman had been spotted. And then it was becoming close to Christmas time. Well, when we'd go down to Point Pleasant, we'd always go across the Silver Bridge. and a bunch of us girls would go down there on the weekends, and we'd get out and sit on that silver bridge because the thing would swing from left to right. And we thought it was fun. It's like the swings at the fairgrounds, you know?
Yep.
So it was the evening of the 14th. I went to bed and I had a dream. And I dreamed that there were packages floating in the water. And there were people screaming. And there was metal crashing. And there were ambulances going off. And I woke up that morning and I came downstairs and I told my mom, and I was about halfway crying. And she said, "Linda, you have dreams like that." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And she knew that I had abilities, and she didn't really encourage me, but she, because she had them too. And people told her back then, you know, you don't talk about that stuff. But
Yep.
she kind of understood. My dad, his mother. So I got it from both sides. Anyway, I went on to school, and we had a Christmas dance. And we had a band that was coming from Huntington. And I can't remember if it was what the name was. I did know it, and I can't remember now. But anyway, they were coming up from Huntington, West Virginia. And when you come up from Huntington, you usually come to Point Pleasant, and then you either go to over to Gallipolis across the Silver Bridge, or you go on up and you go to Pomeroy, and you go across the Pomeroy Mason Bridge to go to Pomeroy, because that's where I went to school, and that's where we had the dance. Well, they were supposed to be there about 5:00 to set up, and we were decorating, and we're going to, you know, talk to the guys and have a good time. 7:00, we were going to have our dance. Well, 5:00 came and went. They weren't there. And we didn't think a whole lot of it because we had plenty of time. About 5:15, I can still see the doors of the school opening up into that gymnasium. And someone came in and they said, "The Silver Bridge has collapsed." And they hadn't heard from the guys on the band yet. And, you know, we were crying and upset, and we're like, "Oh my God, it's rush hour. People are coming home from their job, their Christmas shopping and stuff." I left out a part about going down there, but I'll tell you that in a little bit. But anyway, that was pre-cell phone times. So anyway, they finally got there. Nobody really felt like having, you know, a party, but
Right.
they were so thankful. They were like 3 or 4 cars back.
Oh,
And
wow.
something had happened, and they couldn't get through, and it took them a while. And they said that they came up the hop through, I think it's called Henderson, and then up to Mason, and then across the bridge to Pomeroy that way, and that the bridge had collapsed, you know. I was all shook up because I'd had that dream. Now, back up just a little bit. 2 weeks before that collapsed, I wanted to go do some Christmas shopping down in Point Pleasant. We didn't have Walmarts and stuff. There was little shops. So I got...
Well, at that time, I don't think Walmart was in the...
No, it wasn't even anybody's dream yet, was it? It had a 5 and 10.
Sam didn't... He kept the Walton store. He didn't have Walmart.
Nope.
Oh, I got to turn my heater up. Hang on 1 second. It's getting cold in this office.
Okay.
There we go. Got it.
okay, about 2 weeks before the bridge collapsed, I went down and it was about 7:30. I went across the bridge, and by that time in December, it was dark. And I can remember seeing the Christmas lights in the water. I had to stop in the middle of that bridge, and it swung, and it was full of traffic. And I thought at the time, oh my God, what if this thing collapses? And I thought, that's not going to happen. And then, but I had such a weird feeling. And I went on downtown, and I went to get out of the car to go in the store to go shopping. And there was a weird guy standing out front, and he was all dressed in black. And I was scared to get out of the car, because if you grow up in a small town like that and you see somebody in the middle of a small town all dressed in black with a black hat, a black suit, and sunglasses on at night, leaning against a building,
You knew something was up.
something was up. So I got out of the car and went to go in, and I thought, I'm going to get a good look at this guy. And I kind of side-eyed him. And he appeared Asian, more Asian descent, but his skin was more gray, but his eyes looked strange, what I could see. So I went in and I asked people about it, and they said there wasn't anything that they could do. He wasn't hurting anything, that they'd just been hanging out there. So I got what I went in for, and I came back out, and I looked down the road, and there was another one. So I was more afraid of those guys, I think, than when I saw the UFO and the Mothman. So I kept all that to myself. I had a hard time in school, especially from then on. There were times I didn't want to go to school, and I got teased because I missed a lot of school. I just couldn't go because I could hear people's thoughts. I could feel kids' feelings. And being around a bunch of teenagers and being one yourself and being an empath like that and not having anybody to talk to, know what was wrong with you. So I graduated in 1968, and then I went on to get a job at OU. I worked as a secretary. And then I got married and was married for 40 some years. And then I got a divorce, and then I moved out here in 2017. And in 2015, before I moved out here, I got a computer, and I thought, I'm going to do some digging, and I'm going to find out what's going on in the world. And I got a hold of the Round Town UFO Society, and they had me come up and tell my story. And I was around a bunch of like-minded people that had had experiences, and found out that I wasn't quite as crazy as I thought I was. And I just...
Or you met people just as crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I say. I find like-minded craziness.
And that's where they wanted me to be regressed. So I agreed. And this was 2017, I think. And I met a woman who was also a member of the Round Town UFO Society, but she was a licensed hypnotherapist, and she was a very nice woman. So I felt comfortable and made an appointment, and she regressed me and put me under. And if you've ever been hypnotized, and you think, really what it is you come to such a relaxed state,
right,
that you can, all the fear is under control, and it's like watching a movie. And I remembered even what we had on, what was playing on the radio, Brown Eyed Girl. I remembered everything, and I wanted to continue to remember everything. I remembered when I was on the car and I looked around to find my boyfriend. I yelled for him, and he was nowhere. He wasn't in the car. He wasn't on the ground. And when I turned this way, I slipped off the car. And I remember slipping off the car because I had shorts on, and part of my leg was burnt kind of hot on the hood of the car because we hadn't been there very long.
Right.
And I slid off, hit the bumper, and went down onto the ground. And I was sitting there, and I remember I think I was kind of crying because I'm just in shock because of this huge UFO. And this is incredible. As I was sitting on the ground, I realized I wasn't sitting on the ground. I was sitting on a pair of feet. I was sitting on the feet of that creature that I saw at the end of the car. I could see that thing's feet. I could see that thing's skin. I could see that thing's legs. I looked up. I could see its hands and its wings. Now, the only thing I didn't see was the eyes. And I think if I'd seen the eyes, I'd have probably had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Now, this is hard for me to tell because I know it sounds incredible. But the thing picked me up and carried me to the car. It opened the car door. My boyfriend was sitting in there in a stupor. Somehow he'd gotten in the car. He's sitting in there in a stupor. It reached in and pulled him out, and I can still feel the skin of that thing. And it put me in and pushed me across the seat, and he got in. And when the door went shut is when I came to myself, and I looked at him, and I looked and saw it jump up and fly to the trees.
If you remember the feel of his skin, how did it feel?
Leathery. It didn't have feathers. It was like, it wasn't like a lizard. It wasn't cold. It was gray and smooth. Now, it's no wonder. It's no wonder I had dreams and nightmares, and I had a hard time living with myself because especially after I remembered, and she said, she brought me out because she said it was getting too intense.
Right.
And she said, I would like for you to come back because I think there's more. And I said, I just, at this time I can't. And I haven't. And
well,
that's about it. I know.
You're afraid to go back and do more, or you just can't do more?
Well, up until probably a year ago, I was still coming to terms with stuff and changes in my life. I probably could now.
Right. Okay.
I probably could now because that's why I can go into the woods by myself. If I can face that, I can face anything.
That's it. And You do go in the woods a lot by yourself.
I do. I'm always
Yeah.
in there by
Yeah.
myself.
And,
I go miles. I go miles back in there, all
Yeah.
directions. I
um,
love it. I love it.
yeah. Now, right after my sighting, I had a hard time going in the woods by myself. Even to this day, once in a while, I get that. No, I ain't doing it. Even though I was with a couple other people when I had my sighting. The effects of seeing the Bigfoot, even though I believed he was out there somewhere, it really, really messed with my psyche.
Messes with your mind. It
Big
does.
time.
It did me.
Yeah. And you're talking about being an empath and seeing about the bridge collapsing. I've told this story a couple of times. I was 14 then too. Good friend of the family. I dreamt that he got ran over by a truck. That morning when we got up, I went downstairs to get breakfast before school, and my mom's down there. I go, "Did Timmy get run over by a truck?" She went, "No, he didn't." Why? Oh, I must have dreamt it then. That night he got ran over by a truck.
Yeah. Now,
And that messed my mind up, where I couldn't go to sleep for 3 nights. Finally, I started saying, if I have a dream, I'm not going to remember it. If I have a dream, I'm not going to remember. And I got that. I put that blockage up.
I know.
And I before my conference, I talked to this girl named Sydney and about opening up my third eye. And she said, "You got to clear your mind, be calm." Well, we had so much going on right before the conference up till today. So I haven't really been able to work on it, but I'm going to work on it. Because if there's something I can help people with, I want to be able to do it.
That's what I do. I will be out somewhere and I'm drawn to people. And if I don't go, I feel, what do you call it? I feel like not condemned, but, like I need to tell them something. And I'll go over to somebody and I'll tell them what they're going through. And I'm there to tell them, this or that. The stuff just comes out of my mind and out of my mouth. And I get embarrassed and I just stand there and they cry and grab me and thank me. And
Right.
I've talked to ministers and they say it's like the power of discernment. If you're using it for the good, it's a God-given gift.
Yes.
Excuse me. But
yeah, because I really don't want to use it for lesser terms, evil.
Yeah. No, I don't. If I know something, I won't tell somebody.
Yeah. But if I can tell someone to help them, yes. I've seen UFOs. I've seen a Bigfoot. I've seen ghosts. I had that dream. So I guess I'm sort of like an empath.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And it took me 65 years to figure this out.
Well, I'm older than you.
You don't look it, damn it.
No, thank you.
But
I'm young at heart, and I think I'm doing what I love, and I love what I'm doing, and I love all the people that I meet, and it still embarrasses me for me being the way that I am. But I'm a Christian woman, and I know that God wants me to do certain things. Right, I try.
Well, there's reasons.
There
Let's put
are.
it that way. There is reasons, and
Yeah.
I do believe it's for the good. But it's getting close to 8:30. I do want to say this weekend, the 27th, I'm going to be down in Butler for the Butler Paranormal Conference.
Oh, okay.
Next Saturday, I will be at Salt Fork for the Bigfoot Conference.
I'll be there.
Oh, you got to stop by my table. I'll be
Oh,
vending.
I will.
I'll be vending at those two.
Good.
I was supposed to be at the camp out this weekend at Salt Fork, but at the group camp area, which is part of my camp out. But with things that were going on with Beth and that, I could not leave for the weekend. I had to help take care of her.
Absolutely.
She had that procedure today. Seems to be working. She's able to move more, so that my fingers are crossed. And I talked to two different people today that had the procedures done that she's had. This one lady's been 2 years, and she's been without pain. This other guy's 13 months. So
Well, we'll be praying for her and for you because it's hard. It is.
oh, it is hard. My body's not ready to give up, but I keep trudging forward to help her.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, but today she's done a lot on her own, and she's yelling at me because I'm jumping up to help her because I'm so used to getting there to help her. Let me do this. Okay, okay. So it's been a long road for her to get to this point, and I'm happy for her.
Good.
I got 3 speaking engagements in June and 3 in August. So I got a busy summer.
Good.
Plus a nice camp out up in the Alleghenies in July.
Oh, that'll be fun. I hope you have a lot of activity.
Me too. Me too. As long as it's not Dog Man.
Now, that is about the only thing I'm afraid of is Dog Man.
I don't know if I'll be afraid of it, but I really don't want to run into it.
No, I don't plan on it. No. I'll sick my dog on him.
Oh, hell no. No.
She always goes with me. And sometimes she'll sit down and she won't go any further. And she'll growl. So we go back.
Yeah, all right. I was going to say, you better listen to her.
We go back, don't we, Phoebe?
I took Venus, our shepherd, a year and a half ago. It's like 4 days before Christmas on an investigation. I want other ones to go with me, but it's Christmas time. They couldn't go. So I took Venus. We walked a couple hundred yards, 200 to 300 yards down this cornfield to get into the woods where we had to go in. Venus just walking around like, oh yeah, checking everything out, all happy and everything. As soon as we got inside the wood line, she went off full alert, and my gut saying, you don't want to be in here.
That's one reason I take her, because
But, I'm looking around, and I took a couple quick pictures with my phone, and I says, come on, girl, we're out. And she kept watching, clean around. But full alert until we got out and got maybe 25, 30 yards away from the wood line, and she started to relax.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's like, yep, there's something bad back in there.
Yeah.
And my gut was telling me. And I got a hold of a couple people, and they says, well, whenever you want to go back, I don't want to go back. I don't want to find the evil.
I know. Me either.
But we need to go back and check it out.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and it's been really fun.
Thank you and Chris both.
You're welcome. Look at her.
What's your plans for this summer? You got any plans?
Oh, vacation, going to the beach a couple times. We talked about maybe going out west.
No beaches without me.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. I've got my own beach right down here, the creek.
Well, we got the reservoir up there, but
Yeah.
that's different.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to get on out of here. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
And thank you and Chris very, very much.
Oh, thank you, Bill. It's been a pleasure.
And we will be talking soon.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hang in there.
This has been an Agents of the Unexplained original podcast. Like us on Facebook, subscribe and view on YouTube, and please visit our store link in the bio. Thank you for listening, and remember that paranormal is the new normal.